Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Mills coming at you for the RBLR Sports podcast. I am here today, middle of the day, I suppose, to cover the Rowdies like I usually do. Hopefully give you guys one more podcast to listen to on your travels, either tomorrow on Christmas Eve or the day after on Christmas Day, or maybe over the weekend when you're traveling back from wherever you were. I am here tonight, or right now, if you're listening live, because we are also live. I am here tonight with my usual co-host, Carlos, who is in the festive spirit with his Santa hat. Carlos, how are you doing on this Tuesday, the 23rd?
James, I'm good. Apologies if my audio is a little echoey today. I'm back home in the 813, the lovely Tampa, Florida. I'm happy to be here. So excited to be around for the holidays with the family, as per usual. Rowdies continuing to give us some Christmas gifts over the last few days that we'll talk about. I feel like this is typically the time of year where you and I would sit down and do a Christmas wish list type of episode where we talk about what players we'd like to see. But as we've talked about over the last few weeks, there has been a plethora of signings.
Yeah, we haven't had time to even fit that in, actually.
Yeah, we probably the majority of our starting 11 and a chunk of our bench is already on the roster. So not a ton of space to talk about who we would like to see left on the team. Maybe we can sprinkle a little bit of that in over the course of the next few minutes or so. But James, we're live 4 p.m., 4:20 p.m. Squeeze this in before the happy hours start at 5 and 5:30, and you start to celebrate the end of the workday, going into the holidays, and coming up on a fun time of year to relax, take a break, enjoy time with the family and friends. James, how are you doing before we jump into talking about the Rowdies gifts that have been sent our way?
I'm doing well. I am officially off work, but I am dealing with one person who does not think that I should be off work. So I will keep that in the background here until 5 o'clock, and then she will not be able to keep me on any longer. So I'm going to log off at that point and be completely done for the next 5 days. Yeah. So with that, I'm actually feeling pretty good. But Carlos, as you said, there's more to talk about than what's going on at my work. I'm sure everyone would like to hear about individual claims that I'm dealing with. The best type of podcast that could probably be out there is insurance claims. I feel strongly about that. But
there's got to be a pod for that. There's got to be.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah,
I'm sure there is, but we'll have to do that another day. Right now, instead, we are going to talk about the new signings for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Apologies to all my insurance heads out there. You're going to have to look elsewhere. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube or any major podcast platform. And of course, please follow RBLR Sports on all your social medias at RBLR Sports. And on all your social medias, there should also be an RBLR Rowdies if you would like to join us there specifically.
Yep.
Carlos, since we last recorded, there are 4 new signings to talk about from around the USL to coming to the Tampa Bay Rowdies. We will also talk about a couple of other ones literally around the USL, but that's for later on. So let's start with them, or let's go through that in chronological order. And that means we will start with Luis Perez from North Carolina FC. I will turn it over to you, Carlos, to get us started with Luis.
Yeah, James, you mentioned Luis Perez coming over from North Carolina FC. You've noticed a trend there. We have gone over to Cary, North Carolina, and tactically picked out our favorite players in the middle of their fire sale. As we've said multiple times over the last few weeks, they are taking a hiatus or stepping back, in theory, regrouping for Division One. This is a piece that will strengthen up the midfield, certainly in contention for a starting spot. I don't think this is a surefire, just immediate depth piece or anything like that. I think maybe there's a player or two so far in the signings that we could say are probably your depth piece, particularly one I'll mention in a second. But I don't think this is one of them. I think this is a guy that can certainly compete for a starting spot. He's played really, really good soccer over the past 3 seasons with North Carolina FC, starting with during their time in USL League One, and then the championship over the last 2 years. He scored 14 goals and 13 assists over the 100-plus appearances as a regular starter for that club. So he's gotten very well known in that area, in that community. But again, a club that doesn't really exist anymore, doesn't have an opportunity to field their guys. So And this is a good pickup. Again, a trend of going over to North Carolina and stealing some of their best guys before they can find another club. He's had a track record of good performances at Pittsburgh, FC Tucson, in League One. I think they're still around. I don't know that. In North Carolina most recently. Casciata said he's admired him for a while, kept his eye on him for a while, particularly admiring his quality and versatility in the midfield, noting that he can be a very utility type of player, playing as a number 10. He can play deeper in the midfield and out wide. So again, you maybe notice a trend of a lot of players that have been signed this offseason who can play multiple positions. You're signing a lot of guys that can be moved around. I'm curious to see how he finds his spot on the team, because eventually you're going to have to start finding specific spots on the field for these guys, right?
Yeah.
No use if everyone can play every position and we're switching it up all the time. So the good news is we have plenty of offseason and a good chunk of preseason to figure that out. And Dominic Casciato, I'm sure, is working on that as we speak. So exciting that we have another guy that can play in a variety of positions. Particularly, I think we are looking for guys that can play on the wing, because we haven't had a lot of explicit like wingers make their way to us this offseason so far. So good to know that this is a guy that can play out there and put in some quality minutes when needed. Hardworking work ethic, according to Casciato. He will be the bedrock, part of the bedrock of this group, is the quote. Quote, guys that put the Rowdies first every day, no matter what. Infectious personality, infectious work ethic. It'll spread throughout the group. I'm so delighted to get a chance to work with him at last, end quote. French midfielder, spent his youth career with the academies of PSG and Troyes, college career at UCF. Icky, but it's okay. We forgive him. So this is a guy that I think we can be excited about, James. Like I said, reuniting with some North Carolina FC, former teammates of his in Dolabella and up top in Evan Conway. And that three, Perez, Dolabella, and Conway, certainly a big part of the success of North Carolina over the last couple seasons. So, I think this is great, James. I'm excited about this guy. Initial reactions from you?
I am happy to see him coming in. I don't necessarily expect him to be one of the wide players. I would expect, if we're going with a system that's kind of similar to last year, towards the end of last year, I should say, where Passius and Marie were the two, actually, if you think about it again, the two French-speaking players that were sitting deeper than our striker, most frequently Manuel Arteaga. I could see Luis Perez taking up a role similar to that. So, it would be, I guess, in a couple of senses there, it would be a pretty straight replacement. As you said, we'll forgive him for playing for UCF. Hopefully he will recognize which part of Florida is the better, or at least which part of Florida on the I-4 corridor is the better one. And the other thing I wanted to say about this really quickly, I don't remember exactly when this was or who I was with, but when Luis Perez was with North Carolina and playing against us at one point, possibly in North Carolina, we were looking to troll players there, and somebody noted that he was from Paris, and this is when there was a big bed bug outbreak in the city of Paris. So we just started making a bunch of jokes about bed bugs, but hopefully Monsieur Perez will forgive us our past jokes at his expense. I'm sure that he will be. I'm sure if he even remembers anything along those lines, he will be more than happy to be playing with us down in Tampa Bay, regardless of the silly jokes that we went with in the past.
Well, whatever it takes to get into a guy's head, James. This is going to be a good one. I think, like I said, creative kind of midfielder, utility guy. And by the way, like I mentioned, he's had a few stops in his career already. He's 28, so veteran of the USL at this point, starting in 2021 with Pittsburgh. Before that, Troyes 2, second squad in France, and of course, college soccer as well. FC Tucson, 26 appearances, 5 goals for 2022, and then spent the last few seasons in North Carolina. So, tested at the USL level at this point, and certainly made a good name for himself in League One when he was with Tucson, and in that first year with North Carolina, and was a big part of the reason that they were able to make the playoffs this year in 2025. James, this is a good one. Excited, creative guy. By the way, I read a recap that Kartik, Krishna, and I put together on the Rowdies offseason signings so far, with the exception of the one that came out today that we'll talk about later on. He describes Perez as a, quote, Swiss Army knife, which I think is a great way to summarize what his contributions could be to this team. Provided a veteran spark to replace the void left by Fernandez, was what Kartik said. So I like that. Good reviews all around. I'm excited to welcome Louis to Tampa Bay. James, we jump into the next signing from this past week.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll give you Austin Pack, goalkeeper, coming to us from Charlotte. He is 31 years old, veteran in the USL. He spent the 2025 season with South Georgia Tormenta, not Charlotte Independence. That was prior to this. So he spent last season with South Georgia Tormenta. He recorded 5 shutouts and 33 appearances across all competitions. He was the 2023 USL League One Goalkeeper of the Year. This one seems like it could be a really interesting pickup for a variety of reasons. One, because I thought Jamali Waite was kind of a surefire starter. I think he still is. To be clear, I think we should probably expect to be the starter going into next year. But I'm not entirely sure we can rule out Austin Peck. He's really good. He's a veteran of the USL. He'll provide great, experience and leadership for that back line. And if nothing else, will be an incredible depth piece, right? You're going to be playing a decent amount of games with the Jägermeister Cup. Presumably no Open Cup this time around. So I'm fascinated to see what Austin Pack's contribution is going to be. But if nothing else, this is a veteran leader who will be a great addition to the back line. Curious to see what you can do. James, what do you think about this one? You agree? Is this a potential starter, or are we talking about exclusively a depth piece here?
I mean, I would definitely lean towards Jamali Waite to be our starter. And you already pointed that out. He has the better track record, I would say, of the two of them. Also, literally an international goalkeeper. He competes regularly with Jamaica, too, because Andre Blake is not always available for them due to injuries. So Jamali Waite, he's dealt with good pressure at a high level, obviously. So I just wanted to point that out. I think Austin Pack will probably start as a depth piece, but the other thing to remember is if Jamaica do get through their World Cup qualifying remaining group, I guess you could call it I think they call it a pathway. The point is Jamaica are potentially 2 wins away from the World Cup. They're going to be tough, not going to be easy games. Well, the first one might be a little bit easier, but the second one will not be. So it'll be difficult for Jamaica to get there. If they do, on the other hand, Austin Pack will have a big role to play regardless of what we expect going into this season. So they have to bring in a goalkeeper that they expect will be able to compete, under the assumption that Jamali Waite could be out for, I don't remember how long the group stage is here because it's a bigger World Cup, but possibly let's say 3 weeks, 3 full weeks. So and that's actually, I say 3 weeks, that's not including prep time and being away with your national team. For one thing, Jamali Waite will almost certainly be unavailable during the March international window, which is almost certainly going to coincide with the beginning of our season. So I believe Austin Pack will be pretty heavily involved over the course of this 2026 campaign. It just depends how much Jamali Waite is or is not playing for Jamaica and how many games they have. So that's something that I want to point out. Austin Pack is not here to be just languishing on the bench for 11 months. He's going to be playing. Keep that in mind. He will be a good goalkeeper because we need him to be. Yeah.
This is it's probably the best backup goalkeeper I've seen the Rowdies ever sign. I can't really think back to a second goalkeeper that I've had significant confidence in to play at any given moment. Just off the rip, you're talking about a guy who, again, is 31 years old, so still plenty of soccer, very much in the prime of his career. And he's played so much USL soccer at this point, James. If you look back at his career, he's jumped around a lot. So he's gotten a ton of experience starting back with Puerto Rico FC when they were around. Made his way to Portland Timbers 2, Pittsburgh Riverhounds for a season, Charlotte Independence played 2 seasons, Hartford played a season 2022, that showed up sparingly there. Made his kind of, I guess, significant contributions for the first time in Charlotte Independence, where he had 53 appearances between 2022 and 2024. And then last year in Tormenta FC, continued to have a starting role with 28 appearances. So for the early part of his career, you could see he was kind of a backup keeper, appeared relatively often, but in a backup capacity. This time you're talking about, again, probably moving back into a backup capacity, but not in an insignificant way, like you said.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a guy who's for sure going to get minutes, assuming Jamali's out for, at least a couple of weeks. And it's great to know you have a depth, a quality depth piece, assuming that there's an injury at some point or something like that. There's always just good to know as a fan that you have someone behind your number one like that. And again, a veteran. So you're talking about a leader on the team. I think it's a great, great depth piece, if nothing else. But like you said, certainly going to be a bigger contributor than just a normal depth piece. By the way, shout out to Zach, who I know in the comments on YouTube. If you're listening to this live on YouTube or Twitter, always enjoy seeing your comments come in. We can talk a little bit about the stadium situation at the end, but fun thoughts about moving to share with the Sun, possibly in Ybor, who knows? But anyway, that's why you should always be listening to this live, James. We can talk about stuff as they come up. James, anything else on Austin Pack, or do we go ahead and jump into the third signing of the past week?
I am good on all my pack watch right now.
Oh, I like that. I think actually, did I say that on Twitter? Maybe let's put it on the Discord, pack watch. Anyway, love this guy. Yeah, seems like it'll be a great piece. Welcome to Tampa, Austin Pack. I think this one's going to be the biggest one that we'll talk about over the past week. The third signing over the last week. Today we had another one, which I think is going to be important as well. But I think this one from, was this yesterday? Yeah, December 22nd is probably going to be one of the bigger ones of this past week, but also of the entire season. The Rowdies have once again gone to the Charleston Battery and decided to poach our favorite player from that club. Maybe revenge for taking Kyle Jennings from us, but I think in the end, we're probably going to win this back and forth that we've had with them. Because not only do we get Leland Archer from them, not only do we get MD Myers from them, and we've also gone ahead and stolen one of their other best defenders, and Nathan Dos Santos, our second Dos Santos in modern Rowdies recent history that I can remember after Steven Dos Santos. Nathan Dos Santos joins the Rowdies this upcoming 2026 season. He is a 26-year-old Ontario native who spent the last 2 seasons with Charleston Battery, where he proved himself as one of the best left backs in the entire league, but also a highly, 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 highly capable center back as well. If we decide to keep running with this 3-back formation that's been so characteristic of the Rowdies for the last 6 years, this is a guy that can play in that Aaron Guillen type of role from last season and the last few seasons. And he can do so very, very well. He has a certain flair about him that maybe Guillen did not have, and maybe some of our other defenders did not have. An attacking flair about him. He likes to get out the field. He did score 3 goals and get 3 assists in his 2 seasons with Charleston. So he likes to get up the field and create some opportunities and get on the end of some goals himself. So this is a guy that will be a great, great addition, and I think probably is starting week 1 for your Tampa Bay Rowdies. By the way, another trend for the Tampa Bay Rowdies, getting another guy who is a product of Marshall University, who we've talked about a few times on this episode, on this podcast, James, for producing a ton of great, great players that they bring in from overseas and turn them into what seem to be USL superstars. So another Marshall University product joining the Tampa Bay Rowdies, another Charleston Battery guy joining the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and immediately becoming a really, really big, important part of this team. Like I said, one of the best left backs, will certainly be one of the best left center backs. I think is probably what we'll see him playing. See him be playing for the Rowdies, but it's certainly going to be an important piece for the 2026 season. James, before this, he was with Pittsburgh, made 56 appearances over there. Played at college soccer at Duquesne before transferring to Marshall and winning the College Cup over there. Mm-hmm. Just to mention the other 2 players that were on that Marshall squad for the Rowdies. Pedro Dolabella and Max Schneider. So again, fun little trends that we're noticing here between Marshall, between North Carolina, and Charleston seem to be hot spots for Rowdies talent this upcoming year. James, tell us what you think about Nathan Dos Santos.
That's actually an interesting point that you made, though, about Marshall before I get into anything else. It's good when players have a little bit of a background with each other, because obviously they're going to understand how best to play with each other on the field and get the best out of each other, with passing, with communication, with another potential thing is the best way to motivate each other. So if they are College Cup winners, I think that there is something to be said about that. College doesn't necessarily translate immediately to the higher level, which would be the USL, let alone MLS. But I think that more than his track record at college, Nathan Dos Santos has now a track record in the USL to go off of, just like you said. So I do expect him to, I expect him to be a pretty prominent player here. I'm not exactly certain that he'll be starting, but you have to point out at the same time, right now, the Rowdies don't have a ton of people in the defensive spots. So he could end up being one of the more important defenders that we have here. And I don't think that would be a bad move at all. I would like to see us bring in even bigger names, obviously, but I think that if this is the word that we use, I think that if we settle for Nathan Dos Santos, that's a pretty good settling. That's us looking pretty good there. So, I'm very positive on him, and he does offer that little bit of versatility, like you said, too. He could probably be a left wing back. I would say more readily a left back, and then a left center back is his most likely position on the field. So, it's also good to have versatility. I mean, how many different places did Thomas Van Keezel play last season? Let's hope for a little bit better season overall, but I certainly wouldn't put that down to Thomas Van Keezel in general. And I think that Nathan Dos Santos can be maybe a better version of that on the left side.
Yeah. I'm going to say for sure, like, I'll put my money on this. This is a regular starter for next year. Like, I don't see a world where we're bringing in Dos Santos and Leland Archer, and we're not seeing them playing together in the back off the rim.
Yeah,
those are two, especially Leland Archer is like probably the bigger name here that we're going to be talking about. Exciting, 6'4", like literally a big dude on the back line. Leland Archer is obviously been a teammate of Dos Santos in Charleston. They know each other well. They have chemistry on the back line, which, as we know, is very important in this game, right? You make a mistake, like because of communication, you're liable to go up a goal, right? Because you lose the ball, you make a bad pass, your guys aren't where they're supposed to be. You don't play with each other very well, or you're not familiar with each other yet. I think off the rip, you have some good chemistry on the back line. That's going to be highly important for, stability's sake, but even potentially allowing for Dos Santos to create some offensive opportunity. And I think you're right. Maybe potential to be a left wing back, but I think you're talking more about a defender with some attacking capabilities, more so than like a winger who attacks and also has some defensive capabilities. If that makes any sense. I think you're talking about Dos Santos being a defender first. Yeah. That's why I'm thinking like Guillen, type of build here. Guy who liked to get up the field, particularly in the last couple seasons when we gave him a bit more freedom to do so, but is primarily defending first. I think this is a guy who can do that really, really, really well. He's quick. We've seen him kind of create problems for our attack in the last few seasons. And I think you've seen him get up the field relatively quickly and come back with ease. This is a kind of guy that I think Dom really would really likes to have on his team, right? Fast, high energy, good engine, create a lot of energy and problems with some potential high press as well, with the back line playing up. So I think you have a really, really good piece on your hand that, again, we don't know for sure, but I'm putting my money on this guy being a starter off the rip. I don't know. Unless we go out and get some even more impressive pieces this offseason, it seems like we're doing well in that department here. But time will tell, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
James, speaking of defenders, one more piece to talk about here. It was the last signing of the past week. It came out today at exactly 10:59 a.m., December 23rd. One more gift before Christmas Eve rolls around for us to unwrap. Giannis Learman, another Frenchman joining the Tampa Bay Rowdies in the 2026 season. He's 27 years old, comes to us after 3 seasons as a regular starter for Loudoun United. He appeared in 86 matches across all competitions over the last 3 seasons for them. And he is very explicitly a center back. This is not a guy like Dos Santos that I think we can kind of envision a world where he's playing like right wing back or left wing back or something. This guy is a true explicit center back.
Yeah.
Big guy, physical, likes to get stuck in. And from my little bit of research and understanding of him, looks like he can possess the ball pretty well and move it out of the back decently. So important, obviously, in today's game, there's a lot of playing out of the back, right? Cacciato likes to play some high tempo, fast paced possession soccer as well. So, you can do a little bit of both. You can move the ball to the field, you can hold it, kind of play it around the back and be patient. But more importantly, he seems to be a really, really impressive, stout, physical defender, joining the Tampa Bay Rowdies for this upcoming season. Excited to see what you can do. I think this is one that I'm not sure is off the rip starting. But I don't know. I mean, there's still plenty of time for other signings to be made. Right now, you're talking about a defensive unit that consists of Leland Archer, Nathan Dos Santos, Giannis Learman, Robert Castellanos, and Lawrence White. This is from Kartik's report, by the way, that came out today. I don't know if it came out today. I read it today. It came out today, December 23rd, he says that his sources on the inside are saying that the Rowdies are, quote, aggressively shopping Lawrence White and Robert Castellanos. So maybe that means that we don't see him around next year. Maybe that means Learman is meant to be a replacement for a, Castellanos type of stout center back like that. But nothing confirmed. Obviously, no moves have been made for Castellanos or White at the moment. So who knows what this team defensive unit looks like in a month or so. I think we'll see how it shapes out to see where Giannis's role is going to be for sure on this team. But he's been a regular starter for Loudoun, whose back line has significantly improved over the last couple of seasons. He's a talented dude and could certainly be an important contributor for this team next year.
Yeah, I remember Lehrman actually from college. He was playing for UCF. Another player, I guess we'll have to forgive that. But no, he was a good player there. And I think that when it came time to get looks for the MLS draft towards the end of his senior season, the issue for him was that he was an international, and international players in MLS have a premium because they only have a couple of international spots. Yeah. So that's also true in USL, but obviously the level is different. So if you're going to be one of those international players, you're going to be very, very good. And that's why actually a lot fewer college players end up taking up those international spots per year through MLS. So he obviously ultimately worked his way down into the USL, and he's still been a good contributor. He hasn't been one of the guys who is necessarily lighting it up at Louisville City, let's say. Those players are pretty hard to purchase, although Lexington has at least one of them. So either way, I think that Yanni Lehrman, whether he becomes a starter or a depth piece, I think that he's going to be a good option for us at the back. And if he fulfills that potential that I saw, even if he was playing in the colors of the UCF Knights, then all the better. I'm ready for him as well to admit that he is on the right side of the I-4 corridor, and he wants to make his name here, stick around, all that good stuff.
Yes, sir.
Do it on the field, and then let's go from there.
Yeah. Another great piece. Excited to have him around. By the way, also like his UCF counterpart, Louis Perez, had his academy start in Troyes, Troyes. Don't know how to actually pronounce that the French way, so don't get mad at me if you speak French, but Troyes. So maybe there's a connection there. I don't actually know the timeline of when they would have overlapped in their academy years there, but they played college soccer at UCF and came from Troyes as well. So there's probably an overlap there, James. Am I going out on a whim here? 27-year-old Giannis Lehrman. How old is Louis Perez? 28. There had to be some sort of overlap.
I would imagine so.
Detroit
Also, while we're on that topic,
Yeah.
Yanni Lehrman was drafted at the same time that Nathan Dos Santos was.
There you go. There you go. So these guys seem to know each other. There's connections here at different levels. Good to know. Good to have. Like you said, I mentioned the Marshall University connections here, the North Carolina FC connections, and of course the Charleston Battery connections between MD Myers, Leland Archer, and Dos Santos. Chemistry already coming into the squad, so that's good to know. We'll see how they all start to fit together as the offseason continues, and more importantly, as the preseason begins. But it's good to know there's some connections here that have already been made years ago between the guys that will be making up the starting 11 and the depth pieces. Cool. James, I'm excited. Anything else on our friend Giannis Lehrman?
No, I am satisfied with our coverage of the 4 signings in between last week and now.
Cool. So as it stands, Rowdies roster includes 2 goalkeepers, Jamali Waite and Austin Peck. Defenders, Leland Archer, Robert Castellanos, Nathan Dos Santos, Yanni Lehrman, and Lawrence White. Midfielders, Luis Alvarez, Sebastian Cruz, Pedro Dolabella, Lewis Hilton, Alex Mendez, Marco Migueletto, Louis Perez, and Max Schneider. There's a lot of depth there already. Excited to see that come to fruition next season. The forwards are probably the most impressive unit on this squad. Russell Cicerone, incredible veteran of the game. Evan Conway, super, super talented striker joining us from North Carolina. Carson Henderlong, the young striker, made a name for himself last year in Naples. Andrew Mustali, the academy talent. We'll see if he sticks around or if we send him out on loan. We'll see. Speculation at this point. And of course, the marquee signing of the offseason, maybe across the entire USL, MD Myers, the most prolific striker over the last few seasons, from Charleston Battery to the Rowdies. Rowdies roster, James, it's looking good. It's looking exciting off the rip. We're coming out swinging and making a serious statement in this first bit of the off season. James, let's talk about some other moves happening around the USL, shall we?
Let's do it.
Before we do that, though, I'm going to throw in one more shameless plug before the holidays. Liking and subscribing, James. It's free. You can do it on YouTube, on Twitter, on all the podcast platforms. But if you want to support this podcast just a little bit more and get yourself and some loved ones a fun gift this holiday season, you can go ahead and click the shop.rblrsports.com link in the description of this podcast, or just go ahead and type in shop.rblrsports.com into your URL browser situation. Check out all the fun designs that have been cooked up over there. There's a bunch of cool Tampa Bay sports designs for all your favorite Tampa Bay teams. Again, link is in the description of this podcast. And the most important part here is that you can use promo code COYR for 10% off your order, James. It's fun times. Go ahead and get yourself something nice, get your loved ones something nice, and support our fun little podcast in the process. James, around the USL, there's been some moves that we can talk about. I think the bigger one, and I think part of a broader Lexington trend here that we can talk about for a second, is Aaron Malloy making his way officially to Lexington. We hinted at Lexington kind of making some moves, and it's really started to come to fruition over the last couple of weeks. You're starting to see a true push to be competitive that you maybe hadn't seen in their first year. I think this was their first year in the championship, maybe second year. Certainly going after some big names in the USL and not really relying on scrapping together some, mid to lower tier USL guys. This is a team that's coming together rather nicely already. But Aaron Malloy, James, is the biggest one so far of their young offseason. What do you make of that?
Yeah. Lexington did this on the women's side where they went and spent a lot of money to try and bring in all of the better players across the USL Championship. And so far, it has mostly worked. We're going into the winter break in the US. Did I mess that up? In the USL Super League. In the USL Super League, they did that on the women's side. And we're going into the break with them, I think, second in the league currently. They were first up until Saturday, where they drew away from home, and Sporting Jacks, unfortunately, beat Tampa Bay Sun to take over the lead at the table. But Lexington, obviously, they do have some money to throw around. I don't know where it's all coming from. Obviously not Jim Beam because they're shutting down.
Sure.
Yeah, Lexington has some cash to splash, and they are going to get Arturo Ordonez from Louisville City, Aaron Malloy from Charleston Battery. They're trying to build what would be, in effect, the USL Championship Dream Team. If it works like the USL Super League, then it has the potential to put them in a much better position. I thought last year Lexington were going to do better than they ultimately did because they had splashed some amount of cash. It wasn't getting these kinds of players, but it was getting them out of the basement that they were in previously. And by the basement, I guess I actually mean USL League One. But at the same time, I expected them to be a little better. So honestly, I would be shocked if Lexington does not end up being a real good contender next year, because that's what they're going for, clearly. And they said that, if these are the players that are available to us at this level, we're going to go and sign all of them, I guess. I think that it's going to work out in the long run. You just have to see how long a run that turns out to be. 2026, 2027, we will see. But like I said, this is the year that I expect them to finally start to turn it around and be a competitive side.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. Makes for good soccer. It sucks when there's some teams at the bottom of the league just not really making any moves.
Yeah.
One season to the next. I would have pointed to Las Vegas being one of those over the past couple of years, but they're, making things happen as well. Of course, they signed Manu Arteaga. And there's another Rowdy that made his way over there. Am I right?
Aaron
Guillen, that's right. So, of course, two really talented players that we've gotten to know well. So continuing to make moves over there that I think will come to fruition for them effectively. So not a ton of teams I could point to anymore being just consistent bottom feeders. We were obviously one of those just for a year last year, and I hope it's only for a year. Looks like it should only be for a year based on the folks we've come together to the squad already. As it stands, Lexington's making a push to be, at worst, competitive, which is nice to see. James, you mentioned Louisville City signing Cameron Duke, the young midfielder, 24 years old, seems to have a high ceiling. Didn't get a ton of play time with Hartford Athletic last year. Was also in Louisville, had some time at Crown Legacy, just kind of jumped around. Seems to have some a high ceiling. I'm not sure if he's going to be a huge contributor off the rip. Maybe you have thoughts on that. I think the bigger pieces here to mention that I think were really interesting over the last week were Eloy Room and Jurgen Locadia going to Miami FC. That's going to be interesting. Those are World Cup caliber players technically now, right? James, what do you make of these few signings? Anyone that catches your eye in particular?
I think that it's going to be interesting to see how Miami do team building right now. I have talked about this with Kartik on the whole Florida soccer report that we do, that podcast that covers all soccer in Florida outside of MLS because no one cares, in my opinion. And so I think that they have brought in a new sporting director. And so the players that they're going to be chasing now, it's probably a different profile. It's not going to be, let's say, the MLS Argentinian B team, right? It's going to be a lot more players, probably of this general caliber, Eloy Room and Jurgen Locadia. And then I imagine, based on the track record of the sporting director, it's going to be players who are at the other end of the scale, which are a lot of unheralded prospects. And again, based on track record, probably from West Africa. If anybody knows the name Jan Diamond, he is currently destroying the game for RB Leipzig, and he is at the AFCON right now with Ivory Coast, having just turned professional literally about a year ago. He joined Leganés on January 1st officially of 2025, probably training with them around this time last year. But before that, if anybody is unaware of his story, he was playing literal high school level soccer in Florida for the DME Academy, which I assume is something equivalent to the IMG Academy. They have a similar setup there. And since then, he's gone on to play for, like I said, Leganés and now Leipzig, and make his full international debut for the Ivory Coast. It's unfortunate that the U.S. couldn't keep him around, but that is the type of player that I would imagine Miami are going for. These prospects that they can sell pretty high afterwards. Imagine if, I don't think the DME Academy would have got this, but imagine if Miami had brought him in and somebody had to pay to cancel his contract to bring him over. Obviously, that would have been a pretty good fee. And it's something that you and I have talked about with the Rowdies in the past, being a scouting feeder team for higher level clubs. But I believe it's possible Miami are going to fill their roster with good end players who are at the tail end of their career. So that's the Room and the Locadias. And then they're going to be looking for players like Yan Diamant, players like Bilal Diop, who was playing with the Colorado Rapids 2 team and then had to be drafted to play for Colorado Rapids in MLS. Don't ask me how that system works, but it'll be most interesting to see their roster build. And I think that Room and Locadia are going to be good players to shepherd those prospects onto the next level.
For sure. Yeah, and that's how you build a successful team, right? You want a successful team. You want to put together a squad of veteran and young talent as well. I think that's obviously your ideal mix to put together a successful squad. So Miami FC is certainly not one to discount anymore, as in a couple seasons past. So interesting. We'll see how that develops going forward. By the way, Sporting Jacks made some of their first signings. Don't know what to make of those. San Antonio brought in Christian Barano, and the Roots signed Keegan Tingy and Florian Velo. By the way, Florian Velo has been sneaky talented at every stop he's made in the USL Championship. I feel like he's been one of the more underappreciated midfielders who just kind of quietly makes things happen. He's never been on a team that I think is necessarily competing for a title or in the mix to be at the top of the table. Most recently at Loudoun United, which I think doesn't help his case to be, on a bigger platform. Like, he hasn't really just been in the spotlight in USL. But I want to say Florian Velo has been one of the more talented, sneaky good players across the USL. Middle of his career, still has plenty of soccer left to give, and I think the Roots will be a great spot for him to continue, hopefully being a great player. I really like watching him play. And I think he'll continue to have success over there. And hopefully the Roots are competitive squads that he gets some of the recognition he deserves. James, anything to make of some of these signings?
I just wanted to point out the Roots because, they haven't done extremely well while they're also trying to build. At times it seems like more of a brand than a soccer team, right? But they need to bring in the pieces on the field to make it a little bit more competitive. I would especially like that to be true considering they're competing in the Oakland Coliseum, and they are like the inheritors of a legacy, so to speak. Right now, the sports fans in Oakland are all extremely upset over the way things have gone. So the Roots are one among very few professional teams of any level, and they have the room to make a bigger name for themselves, but they kind of need to go and do it. They need to put the pieces together on the field and make that happen. I think Keegan Tingy has the possibility to do that. He actually was playing alongside Yanni Learmon last season. So that's one thing to point out. But Velo is another player that I think could contribute to that. And if they can get things a little bit more lined up on the field, maybe they can get that Coliseum looking a little bit more packed based on the actual product, which is the soccer. Yeah.
By the way, the two initial signings for Sporting Jacks are defender Dita Armstrong and Luke Graniteur. They're two young players, really at the beginning of their professional careers. Armstrong, the defender, is coming over from St. Louis City 2 and Next Pro. Had 3 seasons over there. So again, obviously a lower tier of professional soccer, but seems to be ready to make a jump. Could be a really high ceiling type of defender for them. Same thing with Luke Graniteur. He's at the beginning of his career. Played college soccer at the University of North Florida. So local-ish kind of guy. to the Jacksonville area. Obviously, we'll continue playing at the same stadium where he played in college, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that works out, right?
Yeah. 3 seasons with UNF, scored 14 goals, 48 appearances. Again, not necessarily a proven going to knock your socks off type of guy for sure, but prospect attacking midfielder with a relatively high ceiling, I think. Played professional-ish soccer as an academy guy with Orlando City B in League One in 2019. Made 16 appearances for them. So he has some USL type of experience. I think you can expect this guy to be a contributor for them. I think it's fun to have a local guy off the rip too. So good for him. But yeah, 2 prospect type of signings that I don't think you can for sure say will knock your socks off this season, but fun to have a local guy as one of your initial signings in history. Cool. James, those are some of the signings we want to talk about across the league. Plenty of movement happening. I always recommend, if you want to keep up with the USL Championship transfers, to check out usltactics.com. John Morrissey has a great resource over there that tracks all the transfers happening across the league, has a team central kind of thing where you can see what players a team has signed, what players a team has lost this offseason, as you start to build an idea of what the 2026 USL Championship season might start to look like. James, extra time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, cool. I'll quickly mention something in the comments that came along on YouTube. Thoughts on this team potentially sharing a stadium with the Tampa Bay Sun and Ybor? Initial thoughts? We heard about this, several weeks ago. Maybe a couple of months ago initially. It'll be interesting if it actually is something we explore. Who knows, right? I don't think there's any indication that the Rowdies were actually looking to explore that as a possibility, at least publicly.
Right.
The Sun have very much stated their intention of building that stadium in Ybor. It would be great.
Without a timeline, it should be said.
Without a timeline, who knows what that'll actually look like if it actually comes to fruition. There's a lot of ifs when it comes to this level of soccer, I'd say, James. But who knows? Hey, if that's a possibility, I'd be open to it. I don't think outlaying is the long-term solution, as we've talked about for a while. But there's so many questions left to be answered. We'll have to just wait and see and keep our ear to the ground.
Yeah.
James, happy holidays.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa starting on the 26th. It's a festive time. Spend some time with the family, the friends. Eat a lot of food. It's like, I don't know why Thanksgiving is the only holiday associated with food. Like, there's also a time to eat a lot of food.
Most holidays turn into that, I feel. Yeah.
Enjoy the food. Enjoy the desserts. Enjoy the gifts. Don't stress a ton about going out and getting all the gifts for your family and friends. It's a stressful time. I feel like people get so worked up about that. Like, it's the thought that counts, James.
And also, if you are stressed about gifts, there's a pretty good place to go.
Yeah.
I would just like to throw it out there one more time. Shop.rblrsports.com.
That's right. That's the one. Shop.rblrsports.com. Little banner down there. Get yourself something nice. Get your friends something nice too.
You knew James, we were going there, folks.
Yeah, for sure. Happy holidays. Enjoy your time with the family. And follow RBL. Oh, let me restart. Happy holidays. Enjoy the time with the family, with the friends. And follow at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, TikTok. Again, Facebook, Threads. Again, everywhere, anywhere on social media, we're there. You can follow me at CarlosTPA10 on Twitter. James?
I am mostly on Twitter at RBLRJamesK.
Cool. Go ahead, follow us. Follow the podcast, like I said, at RBLR Sports, and you can subscribe to the podcast anywhere there are podcasts. Thanks for listening, whether you're live on YouTube or X, whether you're listening to us in your car on the way home, on your travels back home for Christmas. Enjoy the holidays. James, once again, come on, you Rowdies.
Come on, you Rowdies.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.